I picked these three colors to begin, but I'm not going to use the purple, as the pink and blue will blend naturally in purple already. I want to have subtle blue in the recesses, so I try to airbrush in the recesses mainly, but also randomly across the piece. Spraying into the cave, the fumes of the airbrush become very obvious. You'd better wear a mask if you don't want to breathe that in. Then I complement with the pink, and the piece will look a lot lighter, but not strikingly pink, and I'll go on with a second coat in some areas. I hope you enjoy the soothing side of a smooth airbrushing. While it's drying, I take care of the shields with a military green, highlighted with a sand color. I use a lighter and more grey-pink on the whole surface to blend the blue and the pink on the rock, making it more subtle and adding highlights. I didn't use grey itself, but the result looks a bit grey, so that's pretty satisfying, as the rocks don't look boring or obnoxious. Let's get to the brush. I will use almost all of these colors, starting with a sand grey dry brush to make some parts pop a little bit more. I stipple and dry brush the metallic parts. It's easy and quick, and that's the fun we want. I use a bronze color to warm up some parts and make them pop out. Dry brushing allows some pretty nice blends. Of course, it's easier on big surface, and that's why I really enjoy painting terrain. With the idea of using transparency, I apply a thin coat of purple, allowing the black undercoat to come through in certain places. I believe purple will be a good base for a red glaze, just to enrich it, and also for an off-white, to help with richer shadows. My first coat of red is way too thick, so I just wipe it and clean the strokes with a stippling motion. You can see the result here is pretty interesting itself, but I want to go to the end of my idea. I add a yellowish brown to support the next coat that will be green. With transparency, the green will be darker if it's just on top of red, and surely more vibrant on top of the light brown. But who knows? I'm just having fun and sticking to my initial plan, because I'm really curious to see the impact of all these steps in the final result. The next off-white coat is stronger, and I allow transparency in the shadow areas. I add some purple, blue, and a transition of grey between the two in the shadow areas to make it more colorful. And I glaze some off-white over it to blend it. It almost ends up in a dry brush, and I lost the purple hues at the end, so later I will glaze back some purple again. I apply my first coat of green, leaving some reds in the shadow areas. I start in the middle, where the green will be the strongest. Once it's drying, I add shadows on the smaller extraction tank. I stippled some purple, grey and blue on smaller and smaller surface, but I found after that glazing works a lot better, at least for me. Back to the green container, I use a red-brown to glaze the shadows. That's a lot less work than for the off-white container, and I think the result is a lot better because the recipe is a lot simpler and more efficient. The paint has the consistency of a glaze, I apply it pretty thick, and then I stretch it with my brush until it's invisible to the eyes, so the transition is very smooth. It's pretty easy because the reddish brown is very transparent, unlike the off-white. Paints that contain white won't be that transparent. With that recipe, I do the second container. When the central areas are vibrant green, I cover the shadow areas with a transparent layer and glaze over it. And I also do the purple glaze I mentioned on the off-white container. I do weathering with a sponge. And you'll see I went way overboard with that. In fact, I'll just correct it later, it's alright. I add rust, shadows and highlights to the damage. You can see on the longer evacuation pipe how the purple glaze is finer to add the shadows. I add some blue for oxidation effect. It does complement the brown-orange rust very well, and I add some leak effect with the brown ink. That looks pretty battered, and it doesn't seem excessive to me after I corrected the first brown damage I did. I highlight the edges of the shields to have a striking effect. I airbrush the energy or electric cables off camera with bright colors. And I wet blend some purple and green on that small signpost. With the water I added in the first place, the paint slides in organic shapes, which is really fun. Once it's dry, I use a stencil to add markings. I've made a test to make sure it works, but it will, of course, go overboard when I do it on the actual signpost. It's alright, I'll just get back to it and correct it with grey and white. Then I glaze it with a brown ink and add some weathering before we have a chance to enjoy the final result. I really had a blast painting this terrain. I hope you enjoyed this video too. Let me know by subscribing and liking, that really encourages me to provide such content. See you next time.